What's up? Welcome to the Mind Design Podcast, episode 16. I'm Ron Carter, and we got Brian Marsolais over here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Ron. Nice to see you again.
Yes, yes. Good to see you too. So, something that I wanted to start off with, and I talked with Brian right before we hit record. And I said, "Hey, I want to share this framework that I've used to be able to like transform my life, and that I've seen other people use to transform their lives." Brian was against it. He said, "No, don't share this with anybody." And I said, "I'm doing it anyways, Brian. This is what we're doing."
Really? I,
Yeah,
this is top secret material.
yeah. That's how this happened. Um,
That's
and
that's pretty
so
funny.
So what I've noticed, and before I share this framework, you might be like, "Well, who the hell are you, and what do you know about transforming?" And so, years and years ago, I was strung out on drugs. I was on the street, and then, unbeknownst to me, I used this framework to build myself a life and a regular job, uh, and to like get off drugs, right? And then I had this janitor job, and then I didn't like that life, right? And then I used this framework again to become an entrepreneur and learn sales, marketing online. And so it's like looking back on it, I can see how this framework has been really pivotal in making any sort of change. And that's what this podcast is about: mindset change, personal development, changing our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors, our actions, and having a different life because of it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so now that we've gotten some proof out of the way, right? Like this is why this is important, um, and some proof that it works. So I want to make this really simple, um, and all of our all of our real change in life that lasts doesn't just come from changing how we think. There's like some components there, right? How we think is the beginning, but the real change comes from changing our identity. Like who, and if you're wondering, like, well, what does that mean? It's like when I change who I believe that I am, then everything else changes automatically. My actions, my behaviors, my thoughts, my reactions. Um, just like when I was on the street and on drugs, I used to think to myself, like repetitively, I'm just like a drug addict. I'm just this. I'm just a dude out here on the street. And this is like my internal narrative. It's the identity that I gave myself. And I didn't realize that I was doing that at the time. And because of that, like anything that I did, any behavior that I did that that I wouldn't do right now, I could justify it by being like, well, I'm just a drug addict. Like I'm just a dude that's on drugs out here in the street. So of course
Hmm.
this is what I do. And and when it came time to like do something that's out of that identity, like, hey, like don't do drugs for like a couple weeks, get into like minimum, right? Get into like some sort of like transitional housing, start applying for jobs. Like I couldn't do those actions consistently because they weren't in alignment with a drug addict on the street. It's like those actions, the identity that I currently have does not do those things, so I won't do them. It's all like subconscious, right? And to give you guys an example, is this making sense so far, Brian? Before I like
Yeah,
get going?
it's making a lot of sense. I can totally relate to that. And I also relate to what you were saying about I am, right? I am a druggie, so this is where I belong, the street under a bridge, smoking whatever. But um I'm
Right,
so
we're gonna
interested. Yeah, I'm just so interested because let's face it, where you were, how you were living was really what I call the bottom of the barrel, at least the bottom of the barrel as the world I see. So to me, I'm used to coaching people who want to be coached and they want to come out of it. I'm just so curious to say, okay, as a druggie, homeless, how do you get out of that? Like, and you personally got yourself out of it. It's not like you bumped into Tony Robbins. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So the funny thing is that you bring up Tony Robbins. This framework, it's the same framework that he takes people through. It's the same exact thing. And it's like shedding the old identity, and and donning like a new identity. And if the word identity feels weird, one way to think of it is like a new mask or a new costume. And when I say new mask or new costume, what I mean is like if you think of it like that we're all just um like infinite awareness having this human experience, right? Like we're
Mm,
spiritual beings having a human experience
love
type
that. Yeah.
thing. Um and so if you think about it like that, then the human, the identity that you feel like you are right now, that you feel like you are, is literally like a mask or a costume. And just like a great example of this is in plays, right? Like Shakespeare, like plays. Um, so all the actors, they all go on stage, but when they're on stage and they're in their makeup and they're in their costume, they are not the actor. They're not. They are the role that they are playing. Well, like our spirit, consciousness, whatever, that like the real us is like the actor, and our character here on this planet is the character that we are playing, the identity that we are playing. And so we could actually change that identity. We can change the character that we are. And
Whoa.
and we
Okay.
do that. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I just want to, if you don't mind, I want to dig a little deeper into
yeah,
what you just said because that's really important stuff. So you're on the street, your identity is to be a druggie, right? We'll call it a druggie.
sure, yeah,
Now, you're, you have a need to get high, right? You have this wanting, craving to get high all the time. Like you need it.
hmm,
And now that's your identity. You've created that identity through the drugs that got you there. But
right,
now you're the guy that escaped that identity. There's so little people who do that. So, like, I'm just kind of like, tell us how I want to know the exact steps
right,
that you said. I know people I've coached who has had serious drug issues, and a lot of them found, Jesus. They found, I don't want to say religion, but they found that spirit, and the spirit they claim is what got them out of it. But there's no clear definition. It's like all of a sudden you were just chosen to get out of it, or like how did you get out of it to become where you are now?
yeah. So it's a good question, and the way that the way that I view it is like, yeah, I did. I found something greater than myself. That's the way that I like to talk about it, right? But that is so like untangible to talk about, right? Because it's like, well, what is that? It's like, how how do you describe infinity? It's that. It's like it's impossible to talk about, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so the best that we can do is point to it with words and hope the other person looks where we're pointing at instead of our fingers.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but that's what it's like for pretty much any dogmatic religion, at least that's trying to explain God or a higher power. They're just pointing to it, and so for me, like, so putting that aside and saying like, just what did I actually do, like physically here? Um, Well, first thing is I had to have the real desire to not do that anymore. Not like the way that it showed up for me at first was I wanted to stop doing drugs because I wanted all these other consequences to stop. I didn't actually want to stop doing drugs. I wanted the consequences from them to stop.
Hmm.
I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. I'm like, yeah, like let's get all these consequences to stop, and then maybe I could just do it here and there on the weekends, maybe like every Friday, and
Yeah.
like so I didn't really have a desire to stop, and everything that I tried without the actual desire to stop for stopping's sake alone did not work, not
So
long
it
term.
wasn't like you were losing your family, you lost, your girlfriend left you, you do too many drugs, I'm out of here. Your family
What?
just abandoned you. Did any of that happen?
Well, nobody was out there on the street with me, you
But you know
know?
what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you call your parents looking for money, right?
yeah.
Or
I mean,
whoever.
I did all that, and but my like actually my parents kicked me out of the house. I was like in my mid 20s already, and I had already lived out of the house, and I moved back there. Uh, and this is way before getting sober, but my dad was like, "You got to go. Like you can't stay here doing what you're doing. Like
Okay.
I hope you find somewhere that's like, and I hope you like find some help, but you can't do it here." And
Right. Now, did you
and
care about that at the time? Were you like, holy shit, I gotta clean my act up?
no, I was like, I need to go get high because I don't feel good right now. And
Okay.
so I
All
just
right, good.
left, you know?
Yeah. So
um,
that wasn't the breaking point.
no, that's what I mean. There is no like this happens and that's the breaking point.
Mm.
At least not in my experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyone who's listening out there, I just want them to maybe go down a path that you did, because it seems pretty hopeless for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, well the thing is, it's like, and I don't want to make this just 100% about sobriety because it's really just about change because this is applicable to everything. I'm just using this as an example. Um, the thing is, transforming your life in any way, shape, or form will only happen when you have a real concrete inner desire for that transformation.
Sure.
Not for the things that you think the transformation will get you, not for like, hey, I want to start a business so I can get all these different things and then I can do this and I can do that. And I can, it's like, well, your business will be successful when you really just you want a business and because that's just what you want, not because of
Mm.
the other things. Because there's going to be times when, like, hey, your business isn't producing those other things and it sucks and it's a lot of work. And if you're doing it just for the other things, well, chances are you're not going to keep going. Therefore, in the
Yeah.
future, you will not have a business, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just for all this stuff for sobriety too, right? And so, but long story short, what I did because I found other people who did what I'd already been wanting to do, and I listened to everything they said, and I did everything they told me to do. And but it's not until looking back on the stuff that I did is when I noticed that this same transformational framework was inside of it, and so and I'd already been exposed to frameworks like this from mindset coaches online before I'd even like really got sober. I didn't do any of the stuff. I just saw the content, was like, that looks cool, I guess. But then once I, but now I've done it multiple times, right? I've seen how my life has changed and shifted every time. And,
Mm.
um, and so me being on the street, it's like, that was my character. That was my identity. That my like spirit was the role that my spirit was playing in the world. And it's because I unconsciously chose that. And it wasn't until I consciously chose a different identity. Like I wanted this, I wanted to play this other character, and I want that one more than I want this one. That I was willing to make the changes and the shifts to actually do it. And so,
What was that like, Ron? A visualization of what you wanted to be?
yeah. So what I've boiled it down to is this. It's like visualization is just the start. Um, it's like, and it wasn't like a conscious, like I'm just visualizing so I can change. It was like, what it was like for me is I was repeatedly thinking about what it would be like to be like everybody else. Here's a great example. I would wake up in the morning and it's like 6 a.m. and I would see traffic lined up in LA, and I would see all these people in their cars with their Starbucks lattes in their hands, sitting in traffic, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just standing out there, I'm just like looking at them, people watching, and I would think like I just have this like yearning, like man, like they get to just get up, go get a $5 coffee, and just go to work. Like I wish I could do that. Like
Hmm.
just like so intensely, like just wishing that I could be any one of those people in their cars with their overpriced coffees, going to work, still groggy because it's early in the morning. And at the same time, I would think like I would also think, well, I can't do that because I got this problem and this problem. I got to go get these drugs. So I'm going to withdrawal right now and all this other stuff. But I would see them every day, and I would think this every day, like all the time. I'm like they have no idea how lucky they are. They just wake up and feel normal, and they go do normal people stuff.
Yeah, yeah. All they need is a coffee for their drug.
Right. And if they miss it, they're still fine. They go to work. Like and
Yeah.
so that's like, yeah, I had this desire, right? And it wasn't until like around a year later and I like it was like way later and I'm waking up and I'm commuting into work at my janitor job that I had. And I stopped by the gas station. It wasn't Starbucks, but I stopped by the gas station, got a coffee, got on the train in LA and started commuting into work. And I saw some homeless people like just standing outside, and it's like 6 a.m. and I realized like, holy shit, like I'm the dude with the coffee going to work now. When I was
Mm.
that guy, like as the train passes and they like go
That used
by,
to be me.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
so here's how the framework works, right? So number one is I have to identify where I want to go, the transformation that I want to make. That's number one. Actually, let's do this just so that this is really clear. Let's make sure this works. Okay, cool. So number one
Identify.
is identify, right? Identify transformation. Like, what does it look like? Like, like who are you looking to become? Right? So for me, I transformed into like the normal person with the coffee trying to go to work because that's why I identified. That's what I thought about all the time. I was like every day, like first thing in the morning. Like this is such like mindset stuff. I didn't even know this then, but it's like how many times have you
Mm.
seen mindset videos where people are like, first thing in the morning, you wake up and you just imagine your goals and your vision and what you want out of life while your brain is fresh, right? When you wake up. It's like this is what I was doing when I was on the street. I'd get up and like step out of the alley that I was sleeping in and do that while I'm staring at people going to work, you know?
Mm.
And but the thing is there's no limit to this. If I would have imagined and thought of something else, I wouldn't have transformed into a janitor at a hospital taking the train to work. But that's as far as my mind could think at the time, right?
Yeah, that was your stepping stone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
And
it
so
just and then you just took the same technique over and over and built and built and built.
right, you just
Yeah.
keep doing it. As soon as you realize that, oh, I'm there, well, now it's time to do it again. And this is why I love entrepreneurship because like you can keep doing that. There's like different levels of transformation in the same role, right? If you like own a company or something like that, but that's a totally
Mm.
different thing. So we have to identify the transformation. Like what role do you want to play in life? Like what character do you want to be? And then you have to identify the character traits. Okay, like who is this role? Who is the new role, right? Like what the new role that you're going to play in life. Like what kind of things does this character do, the new version of you that you want to become? What kind of things do they do on a consistent basis, like as a habit that right now you don't do, that the current version of you does not do?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's other things like what kind of things does this new version of you, the one who already is who's already had this transformation, what kind of things does that new version of you never do? Like it's just below their standards. They'd never do it.
Mm.
But it's something that you currently do right now.
Yeah. So now we're getting real specific.
Right. Right. And so like for example, when I got that job, it's like obviously I knew when I was standing out there on the street, like, yeah, I want to be in the flow of traffic, going to work and doing all this stuff, but
Mm.
it's not going to be possible if I'm doing drugs like this. That version of me doesn't do these drugs, you know? And
Yeah.
so, um, and so, and you can make these lists can be as extensive or short as you want them to be. They're going to be different for everybody. Um,
Mm.
and so here's the thing. Once you list out like, okay, who is this new character? Like what are their habits? The new version, right? What are their habits? What are uh the things they like to do? Things, oops, things they like. Things that things they don't like. They excuse my handwriting. They don't like. Okay for like. uh
Mm.
okay, what are things that they never do? And what are
Yeah.
things that they always do, right? So it's like
Yeah.
let's say that you want to be a you want to start a marketing agency where you're helping other businesses get leads, right? And it's like, okay, well, as a marketing agency owner, like, and you're not doing it right now, like, who are they? Like, there got to be somebody who is like constantly trying to self-improve, that are learning all the time, but they're also taking action. They have habits of uh, getting out of their comfort zone and doing uncomfortable things to learn new skills. They aren't afraid of reaching out to potential business owners, even if they've never heard of them,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
not afraid of pitching their services and delivering services that aren't good at first, because no one's good at things when they start. So they're not afraid of being bad at what they're doing. So because that's how you get good at what you're doing, is by being bad first and continually doing it over and over. And so these are all these character traits. Like this is who you need to be able to do that. And then it's like, okay, well, then you look at, well, who is my character right now? So you do this same process, the same thing for your current role. You look at like, okay, what are your habits now? What are the things that you like now? What are the things that you don't like right now? What are the things that you never ever do and you never want to do? And what are the things that you always do? And if you do
Mm.
this, if you just write this out, it takes like 20 minutes, you will see that the current role that you're playing does not align with the role of the person that you want to be. That it's never ever like a carbon copy, like ever. And the reason for that is, if it was, if you didn't have to change anything about the things that you like and the things that you don't like and your habits and what you're comfortable with, what you're not, all that stuff, then you wouldn't need this transformation, because you would already have the results from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I believe it does. When you're, when you just start identifying who you want to be, right? Do you put a timeline on that, Ron, or do you just let it go, or is that too much to do that?
I have in the past, and I think that it was a mistake.
Okay.
Um, well, I mean, I can't say it was a mistake. I'll just say like I'll say what happened, right? I have put a timeline on it in the past, and I've noticed that for whatever reason, it always takes longer than the timeline I put on it.
Mm.
At least this is my experience, right? I'm
Yeah,
not saying
yeah.
that this is a rule of the universe. This is just what happened when I did that. I'd be like, I'm going to do this in this amount of time. And then that amount of time comes and I'm not there yet, but I've been trying. And then I feel discouraged because I didn't
Really?
get there yet. Yeah.
So that right there discouraged you. You're like, wow,
And
this
I'm not
shit does
saying,
like it
I'm,
doesn't work. I'm giving up.
yeah, I'm not saying that it got me to give up, but it got me to take action at a much slower pace. I'm like, oh well. Um,
Yeah.
And so I think what's more important now for me than the timeline, and this is a lesson that I learned through that experience, is like all I do is I look at the character traits of the person that I want to become, because that's the real secret here to transforming. It's like you don't focus on the things that you're gonna get or the different things that you want in your life. You look at
Right.
who you need to become to have those things happen automatically, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that marketing agency owner that I talked about, if you have those habits that I talked about, and I know this from being in like online business, where you're not afraid to like talk with new people, you actually love it. You love cold calling, you love DMing, like to the point where it's like you would rather be cold calling people than watching Netflix at night because you love it that much. Like you're gonna get business and you're gonna have work, you know. Um,
Hmm.
and so it's like, how do you become that person? That's the real thing. Because once you work on becoming that person, the rest of the stuff is automatic. It's just like how somebody who loves fitness, who lives and breathes fitness, well,
Right.
they tend to be in shape, and it seems like it's almost automatic for them because they're just doing the
Yeah.
thing that they love, and that's who they are.
They'll, yep, exactly. Now, do you still have that list? Can we see it again?
Yeah,
Let's
and
put it up there one more time so people can write that down. I think that's really cool.
yeah. So for this, you do the same thing for your current role, right? That's why I have current role written down here at the bottom, and then the key here is once you have these mapped out, it's not just okay mapping it out, but it's like it's making the conscious effort every day to do the things that the newer version of you would do. It's to like
Mm.
consciously become this person every day, even if it's one little step at a time.
Yeah.
And you make that the thing that you focus on instead of the big goals that you want to achieve.
Right. And I think a lot of times, maybe you'll agree with me here, Ron. A lot of times when people are looking for a transformation, they're down on themselves. They want more, but they're kind of down on themselves. And I remember um, someone telling me this, one of my good friends way back said, "Hey, just do one thing. Do one thing a day. Just do one thing a day. Just focus on one thing." And it's amazing how fast one thing can turn into like five things a day,
Yeah, it
but
snowballs.
you just got to do one thing a day, just one thing, just one thing. And then, so I'm glad you have that in your note.
Yeah, and that's really it. It's like, and you could do this for anything else if it's even if it's not that serious, right? So, um, I know that I think we were talking about surfing and stuff in our last episode, and
Yeah.
and uh, so for me, um, last year, and I know you already know about the story, Brian, but like last year, so this big scar right here on my face. It's hard to see right now, but like this like little bit of skin is darker and then lighter right here, and it goes over here too. And so how I got that, oh, you can kind of see it now. It's darker right there. Um, so how I got that was last summer. I decided it was really nice. It was last September actually, and it was really nice. Decided to go to the beach, and on the way to the beach, I'm with my girlfriend, and I said, "Hey, let's just stop at Big Five. I'm gonna get a boogie board, just because I used to have them as kids. It's gonna be fun out there." We go out there. I get the boogie board, go out there, and the waves are small. They're like 1 foot waves, and so I'm just having fun out there. And I remember there was other people like boogie boarding next to me. Um, but the waves were tiny. Like we're standing in waist deep water and just jumping onto the board to like ride into shore, right? Wasn't trying to like go down the line with any of the waves. They weren't even doing that anyways. They're just little tiny things. And so
Yeah.
just having fun, you know. And I remember as soon as I walked in, the one person that was boogie boarding next to me, she was an older lady, and she's like, "You were killing it out there." And in my mind, I was like, "Yeah, I am killing it." And it's like adding to this identity that like
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was building.
Yeah.
Like, but now I could look back and see that this is what was happening. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I was killing it. I'm good at this. Like, and so next weekend, I was like, let's go do this again. And I remember I was at the gym on like a on an elliptical machine. I knew when I got back from the gym that we were going to go to the beach. It was like 11 a.m. on a Saturday, and I look up the weather just to see if it's nice out, and it's like, yeah, it's going to be hot, and then it says high surf advisory on the weather app, right?
Now you're
We
excited.
Yes, because I'm like, I'm good at this. I'm gonna kill it out there. And we get out there, and the waves were like, we're not even at a beach that you're supposed to like do surfing at. It's just like a beach break for people who are hanging out on the beach because all the waves just close out there, right? It's just like the whole wave crashes down at once. And and the waves were like 6 to 10 feet that day.
Wow, those are big
Yeah,
waves.
they're big waves, right? Um, and uh, and I was like, because I guess there was a hurricane like near Baja, Mexico. So it was
Hmm.
shooting all this water up to California. The water was super warm. I remember that because it's all coming from down there and caused this huge swell. But anyway, so I go out there. I'm in the water for 20 minutes max. I don't know anything about bodyboarding and bigger surf. So I don't know how to duck under the waves. I don't know how to do any of that. I'm just out there holding this thing. And like the white water is just hitting me like walls because they're super powerful too. They're not like little short waves. They
Yeah.
got a long tail to them. And
Hmm.
and I get out to the point where I'm like maybe chest deep in water, but I need to be further out to get past where the waves are breaking. I didn't know this then though, you know, and I
Yeah.
see this wave forming in front of me, and it's like about to break. It's like this, right? And I'm just standing here, and instead of just like letting go of my board and ducking underwater and letting like my board do whatever, just holding onto
Yeah.
the leash underwater. Now I know to do this stuff too, right? I didn't know any of this stuff then. So what I decided to do was,
Deer in the headlight.
yeah, I decided, well, this is a big one. It's a good one. I'm going to turn around and just jump on my board. And so this thing is about to break, right? And it's like, so I turn around, jump my board. It just sucks me straight up because like the bigger waves, they'll just suck you up, right?
Oh yeah.
It just sucks me up, and then it just like throws me down. I go down the falls, right? But I'm head first, lying on a boogie board, just go straight into the water. My face slams on all the sand at the bottom. And I just get drug over all the sand and then thrown into a washing machine. And when I get so
Catapulted.
I'm like concussed because I remember I got up and I didn't really know where I was, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then like my face is just bleeding because all this skin got scraped off of my face from the ocean floor, and my neck is all tweaked because I went head first into the ground. Right, my hands were holding the boogie board, and so my face broke my fall. Um, and all that water was just pushing me down too, right? So it's not just like falling. And and I had to get out, right? That was the end of the day for me. I was in the water for 20 minutes that day. But the thing is,
Wow.
what happened after that was really interesting because I'm
The
very
end of
good.
your the end of your modeling career.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing though is unconsciously, I can see this now. I didn't map this out on purpose. But what I did was I started watching a bunch of YouTube videos about, first of all, what happened to me, because it happened so quick. I didn't even know how I ended up at the bottom with my face in the dirt.
Yeah.
It was just like boom. And I was like, I thought I was gonna be riding a wave. Next thing I know, I'm like just grateful I didn't break my neck and die. you know? And I was
Mm.
like, okay, what happened? And I didn't get in the water for like 5 months after that. I was like, nope, I don't care. Like, I'm not doing it. I just watched YouTube video after YouTube video, like at night, about how to bodyboard correctly. And I learned, like, number one, you need fins on your feet so that you can kick and move with the speed of the wave. That way the wave doesn't
Mm.
suck you up and throw you out, you know? And I was like, okay. I learned that I needed to be out further to get past where they're breaking, and then you could ride one in.
Yeah.
And then I learned that when you're riding one in, you gotta not be a closeout. I learned all this stuff, and I didn't know how to do any of it yet, but I learned all this stuff. And and I learned, like, okay, basically what I learned is if you want to be good at bodyboarding, if you want to become and transform into the version of Ron that is good at bodyboarding, these are the skills and the habits that that version of Ron has to have.
Hmm. So
He's got
you
to have,
identified.
yeah, that version of Ron needs to have fins, needs to know how to use them, needs to not be afraid of being in the water where it's deep.
Mm.
He needs to be comfortable just being out in the water. He needs to be comfortable with big waves breaking on him and swimming around out there. He needs to know how to duck dive and get under waves. He needs to know how to control the board and like all these different things, right? That version is good at, needs to go out in the water frequently. He needs to have a wetsuit. I didn't have any of that stuff then. He needs to have
Yeah.
a properly fitting sized board. And now it's funny because I look at back now, that was a year ago when I got my face smashed, right? And now I have all of those things. I didn't even do this on purpose. I have all those things, the fins, the wetsuit. I know how to duck dive. Now when I go out in the water, I used to be afraid of going past where I can touch. I know we've talked about this, Brian.
Mm.
And now I'm like, if I'm out there and I'm hanging onto my boogie board and my legs are in the water and my fins are kicking and I feel my fin touch the ground, I'm like, oh, like I don't like that. I lift my legs up right away. I'm like,
Yeah.
because like I want to be out past that. I don't even want to be there. And it's like this is a night and day difference from the Ron from a year ago. It's like, well, what do you know? Now when a wave is breaking, when they're like 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, like I like that. That's what I want. And then I'm like going down the side of the wave like you're supposed to, and I'm not getting thrown into the bottom of the ocean anymore. And I'm like trying to learn how to do tricks and like jumps and stuff on it. And yeah, so just another example. Like this applies to any kind of change or transformation.
Mm. Yeah. It applies to everything. Anything you want, it's there.
Yeah. It's there and it's possible, and all we have to do is we have to know what it is
And
that
we
we
have to
want.
work at it. You have to work at it,
Right.
but
And
you don't have to take big bites. You can take small bites,
yeah.
you know. I always like setting timelines up so that way like the timeline motivates me. Where but that's just me, you know. Sometimes that puts more pressure on somebody so they accomplish less. But for
Right.
me, you put a timeline, okay, I know I have to practice 5 hours a week to get to a certain place in a month or 2 months. It that works for me, but there's a lot of people who feel too much pressure doing that, like you were saying, and it sabotages it. So find your own pace and what works.
Yeah, I think the key is it's like here's a really cool question that I've started to ask myself when it comes to transforming into anything that I want to transform into, right? And I'd like to ask myself, once I have it mapped out, like who I need to become and the things that I need to do, It's like, okay, how can I make this fun? Once I know that these are the things I got to do, if I ask myself, how can I make this fun? I'm going to find things that align with me that make it enjoyable.
Yeah,
And
great
so,
question.
because that's the thing, it's like, once we make the progression in the direction that we want to go enjoyable, like
Yeah.
it's pretty much done, you
Yeah,
know?
that's great. It's like how can I achieve this and make it fun at the same time?
Yeah. How can I make the journey there fun
Mm,
for me? And the answer might be different for everybody. Like for you, it might be setting up timelines and knowing that you're hitting these certain amount of numbers every week and feeling motivated and fulfilled from it. For me, it's learning one new thing, implementing it, and knowing that I did it. And it's like
yeah.
and and only focusing on that until that's done and then doing the next. To me, that gives me fulfillment, but I've learned this from doing both of them.
Mm,
That's how I know that that's more motivating for me. um so whatever it is for any of you guys out there listening, I would just think of that, like map out where you want to go. um it's best to get it on paper, but even if you don't, if you have it clear in your mind and you're thinking about it all the time, um then you might as well put it on paper, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think that's a great point too, Ron. A lot of times keeping a journal of what works or what doesn't work, and just having that journal so you can say, hey, look back. Wow, this is where I was. Because we forget growth.
yeah,
You look back 2 months, from whenever you start, you're like, wow, that's where I was. Look where I am now,
yeah,
you know?
and being able to look back like that, it's really motivating to continue moving forward. Um, and this is the same thing to answer your original question at the beginning of the episode. This is what I did to get sober. It was like, this is who I want to be. I didn't know what the things that I should do were, so I asked people who had already
Mm,
done it, and then I just did what they said to do.
yeah.
Because everything that we don't know right now how to do, it's not a matter of how to do it. It's a matter of who to find that's already done it. That's it. And
Mm,
if you find the person who's already done it, then they could tell you all the how that you need.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
because that's an extreme. That's an extreme where you
yeah,
were.
and even with like the surfing, like bodyboarding analogy, it's like, yeah, I learned all this stuff on what to do and what to not do. But guess where I learned it from? From people, other people who made videos and put them on YouTube.
Exactly.
So I learned it from who? These professional bodyboarders who were
Yeah.
sharing the stuff they know.
Not
Um,
just the mistakes I made. Yeah.
yeah, and
That's pretty wild. I didn't know that you got hurt
oh, you
on
didn't?
yeah. No. Did you need stitches?
No, but I had patches like and gauze all over my face for like
Yeah.
a couple weeks. Um, so what I got was basically like I didn't get cut. It was like literally like this patch of my face right here and right here, like had road rash. Like it was like I got sandpapered off from
Oh
like
yeah.
my face being in the ocean floor like this, and then the waves
Yeah.
like pushing me and sliding me.
Any
You
type of
know?
coral down there too, just gonna rip you apart.
Yeah. Thankfully, it was a sand bottom, but that was just
Yeah.
the sand that did that. If there was rock or coral down there, I probably would have broke my neck or been knocked out. It
Yeah,
would have
for
been
sure.
it would have been really bad. Yeah.
Right on. Oh yeah, I've seen like, one of my friends got a fin right through his calf muscle.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Was it from his board or somebody
Yeah,
else's?
it's from his. Have a little, sometimes you get, how that catapulting happens sometimes, like a wave will just break way faster than anticipated.
Yeah.
You get a lot of water on the front of the board. See you later.
Yeah. That's like that's one thing that I like about bodyboarding. It's like the whole thing is made out of like styrofoam type material. Like
Yeah,
there's nothing on my board that I'm not worried about my board hitting me at all ever. You know,
yeah,
there's no fins. Like the only thing I got to look out for is the other surfers that are out there,
yeah,
uh, and their boards because I'm lying down on the wave. And a lot of them don't like bodyboarders and they'll just drop in on you when you're on a wave.
yeah,
And it's like, don't do that, bro, because you're gonna run me over. I'm laying down on a board. You're gonna run me over and we get all cut up.
yeah. That'd be a
So
bummer.
I give them all their space. I'm like, I don't care. This is where they're breaking, and it's where 20 of you guys are at. There's some waves breaking subpar over here, but no one's there. I'm going over there. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't like crowds when I'm surfing, but it's getting so popular even up here in the Northeast. And the thing is, I have a 10-foot board.
Okay,
That's
that's big, but
that's
it's a
my
stand up, right?
yeah, that's my go-to board, right? It's a surf SUP, and you can't steer them like you can, but you can't steer them like a surfboard, like
Right.
a little 6 foot, 5 foot, 4 foot board. You can just maneuver that crazy, but the bigger boards, you know, y- you can move them, and we do, but they're hard to really, you know,
Yeah,
someone
you
gets
can't
in
like
front of you,
cut back super fast on it. You
right?
know? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only challenge I have too, and then I've got a 10-foot tether I keep on mine. But if you get someone in front of you and you abandon ship because you think you're gonna hit them, the board's still going, So it's like,
Yeah. Especially with a 10-foot tether. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of scary. I think it's 10. It might be shorter. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
I think my leash is like 4 feet maybe. It's coiled, but like when it's stretched out,
Yeah.
4 feet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, well, I think hopefully this framework helps you guys. I mean, I know that it works. I've seen so many people use this, whether they know it or not. Like this is how transformation. This is how we change who we decide to be in the world.
Yep.
Is we and I know we've had other podcast episodes where like we simply decide, you make a decision, and like that's it. It's like you map out who it is you want. You decide that you are going to become that person right now. Like you bring that from the future into the present and think, what things does that person do that I haven't been doing that I need to do right now? And you just start doing them one thing at a time. And then next thing you know, you'll be like, wow, I'm that person. Like I didn't think of the surfing thing until we were on this episode because it's like now, like I ride my bike out. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning last Friday just to go out to Surfers Point, like at 6 when the waves were good, with nobody else there, it's just me and then a bunch of surfers that are all out there, and I'm getting out of all their way and going to like where the waves are breaking the biggest because most of everybody were where they were like only 3 feet, and I'm like, no, that's 4 to 5 feet over here. That's where I want to be, and it's like
Hmm.
way deeper in the water, and I'm the only guy out there on a bodyboard, and it's like,
Yeah.
huh, like just a year ago you were smashing your face and then going inside and
Yeah.
going home,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, the buddy system always is best, but if you're out there alone, Ron, that's okay.
I go out there alone all the time, but most of the time, like these breaks are so popular that I'm not the only one in the water. There's usually a couple other people, at least somewhere on the beach in the water.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
one
the
guy got knocked out last week riding his board. He got knocked out, and thank God someone seen him floating in the water.
yeah, yeah. You're probably like the board probably hit him or something, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that's the one thing. If I'm on a sponge, it's like the
yeah.
only thing, and there's no real reefs. I mean, there's some reefs, some deeper reef breaks, but they break in the wintertime. So like the chance of my leash getting caught on something and keeping me underwater is very, very small. Like me like getting knocked out from my board, like impossible. that's a sponge, you know. Um,
Yeah. I mean, you never know though. I mean, you can get a good wave that can whip that thing right into your head. You never know.
yeah,
But
that's
I know
true.
what you're saying. The chances are
Yeah,
slim.
yeah. There's always sharks too. We got them out here. I mean, they're
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah.
Fun. And then you dressed up like a seal. So
Yeah. Yeah, I got flippers on my feet hanging off the back of my board, laying
yeah.
down. Yeah.
What, what could possibly go wrong?
I read somewhere that sharks are colorblind and they see like yellow the same color as they see a lot of fish, like bright yellow. And so nothing that I have is yellow.
Really?
Because I read that somewhere, yeah. Um
Hmm.
so everything I have is like blue colored stuff instead, even though it's harder to see for other people to see in the ocean. I'm like, I don't want any sharks to mistake me as a fish or a seal
Yeah.
and then have to find out that I'm a human through their taste buds
Yeah.
and then leave me
Oops.
alone. You know?
Oops. Yeah. That would be a bummer.
Yeah.
But hey, that was great, Ron. Thanks for sharing that. And just to clear the record, I never said don't bring this in.
Oh, he was not about it. For anybody watching,
Yeah.
he was like, "This is gonna help too many people. We can't be doing this. They should be paying us for this. This is
Yeah.
crazy. Don't do it, Ron."
We're all
And
about helping people. That's good, Ron. That's good. I'll remember that.
all right, guys, we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.